Welcome to the Strategy Mob Podcast. Tune in for a deep dive into everything automotive with some of the top experts in the field. Be in the know with Strategy Mob.
What's up, Strategy Mob crew and all you automotive professionals out there? Welcome to another episode of the Strategy Mob Podcast. So my name is Skinny and I am your new host of the podcast. I'm like the Jason Harris 2.0 beta version. I'm kind of like that new packaging. Software's promised to be a little bit faster, but we're still working out all the bugs. It's Monday morning and we're ready to rise and grind, and to kick it all off on our show, we have the sales manager all the way from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, from Steele, Chevy, Buick, Cadillac, the one and only Brandon Smith. Brandon, welcome to the show, bud.
Thanks very much, Skinny. It's a very big honor to be here with you.
Oh, thanks, dude. No, we appreciate all that. So how's Monday morning going?
Monday morning's been good. I dropped the daughter off to school and getting ready for a big day here at Steele Chev. So
right on. Oh, you guys have school. That's right. Ontario, they're upstairs right now in homeschool, and I'm the principal down here just goofing off. For all of our viewers who maybe haven't been on LinkedIn in like a year and who don't know who you are, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself and your automotive background?
For sure, yeah. So my name is Brandon Smith, obviously, as you know. I got started in the automotive industry, I think, in late-ish of 2014 as a salesperson at a Kia dealership. I was there for about 8 months, but I got into the dealership with an eye towards finance. My mom was a finance manager for a number of years before I got in the automotive industry. And I really got in with the goal of becoming a finance manager. So I had the opportunity to move to Fredericton, New Brunswick to become a finance manager at a Honda dealership. And I jumped at that. Really loved being an F&I manager. Had a lot of success at the Honda store. Was there for a number of years before I got recruited to go and join Fredericton Mitsubishi as an F&I manager. I jumped over there and, I really grew my career at Fredericton Mitsubishi under, the tutelage of Dave O'Leary and David Brown, two guys I would credit a lot of my success to. And it was there I actually got promoted to a sales manager. I was after about 6 months at Mitsubishi. And then I spent the next 2 years or so at Fredericton Mitsubishi as a sales manager and, made all kinds of different mistakes and grew as a new sales manager and tried to do what I could do to grow the business and grow my team. And then after a while, my wife and I decided it was time to move closer to home. So it was hard to leave Fredericton Mitsubishi, but I decided to come back to Halifax where our family was. And then I joined Steele Chev as a sales manager with managed the finance department here as well. And then it was here at Steele Chev that I joined the Strategy Mob as one of the captains, and just continuing to stay busy and grow and learn as much as I can every day.
So that's what it's all about, right? You kind of roll with the punches, and there's something new every day in the automotive world, that's for sure. So no, that's awesome. So you've had kind of that typical, I would say, transition from sales to, getting that promotion as an F&I manager. Now you're in the captain's chair, really, as a sales manager leading the team. So that's pretty cool. I actually had the opposite. I started in sales and then I kind of got my shot as a sales manager without going to that F&I role first. And then I switched to F&I after I'd been a sales manager for about 8 years. So yeah, no right or wrong way, but certainly we've had some different experience from how we've gone up in the ranks. So I kind of want to talk about that because that's something that's a little bit interesting to me. The succession of the roles, how they go from one to another to the next. Now that you're calling the shots with the sales team, what were some things that you maybe changed when you took over that role coming from the F&I seat? Maybe new processes, or maybe you told your team to stop saying this, or, can you elaborate? What were some of the changes that you made?
As a new sales manager at Fredericton Mitsubishi, the number of things we did really well there. We were actually a fairly F&I focused store to begin with. We had a lot of our process that was designed to present a pretty seamless, experience for the customer. So when they come in, we're talking F&I right away. So a lot of that was just affirming the process we had there, and basically building upon that process. In terms of other changes, some of the stuff was just, building out some different word tracks, getting people comfortable with stuff, and then getting some real buy-in to the process and understanding why the process was built in such a way. I had a very green sales team at French Mitsubishi that became quite quite well lubricated towards the end, but
Yeah.
a lot of that stuff is growing pains. Explaining why we do things a certain way, what the benefit is for them, and then getting buy-in from the staff are kind of some important things. But I think some of the biggest changes that I made as a new sales manager were just in honestly myself and some of my own expectations. One of the things that I learned as a new sales manager was that people don't all think or operate the way that I do. As a salesperson or as an F&I manager, I just needed to be asked to do something, and I would figure out a way to get it done. And that's not always the way that everyone operates. Sometimes people need a little bit more direction or a little bit of encouragement. Sometimes people need more information than I need this done.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of adapting my expectations and my management style and how how you operate or manage a sales team. Those are things that I really learned and kind of grew as a new sales manager. And then coming here, as it being a new sales manager to already an existing team, a lot of that is just getting yourself familiar with the processes here, getting yourself familiar with the culture at a store. You can't come in as a new sales manager and expect everyone to adapt to your process when you're going into an already successful store. I have the benefit of working with 3 other very, very talented sales managers and a very incredible GM here at Steele Chev. Colin Jameson is an incredible leader in the automotive industry, and my team here, we all do everything a little bit differently. We all do different areas really well, and as a team, I think we're among the best. So coming in as a new sales manager to the team here, it's just spending some time getting yourself used to the processes and the team and the culture, and then trying to make your mark after that. So those are some of the I guess changes and things that I kind of experienced as a new sales manager overall, and then as a new sales manager to an existing team. So.
Yeah, and again, because we've sat in both seats, I do know that it has to be a culture with F&I particularly. And this is great because it leads into the next question I want to ask you. But I mean, just to talk about the culture environment, if you don't have, kind of those leaders all on the same page, all, pushing towards those common goals and objectives, salespeople will sometimes play mom and dad, right? And if they know that one sales manager that doesn't lean heavily towards that process that maybe assists with F&I, that manager all of a sudden starts desking more deals, and that's where, things start to slide. So yeah, I would be, 100% on board to say that if it's not a culture thing, it's very, very difficult to get that complete buy-in. And that leads to my next question, and it's the $1 million question. It's, how do you get a sales team to be an advocate for F&I? How do you get them to, kind of be really engaged and motivated to do that? Not just when, you're kind of watching and asking them, hey, did you mention, about the warranty and how you can extend it and things like that? How do you get the buy-in from the team? How do you get them so motivated that it's just part of their whole sales routine and they really understand that and they believe in it?
For sure. I think there's actually 3 different kind of ways, and they're all equally important to really getting that buy-in to the F&I process from the sales person's perspective. Obviously, the first one is pay plan. If they don't get a share of that, they're just not going to care, no matter what the how important it is or how much you talk about it. If there's nothing in it for them, there's just not going to be any care there. So it really starts with the pay plan. It doesn't need to be excessive. It doesn't need to be a huge amount. When I was at Mitsubishi, we worked on a spiff system. So depending on what was sold, you had a flat amount that was paid to you. I've seen other pay plans where it's a percentage of the back end gross is shared with the F&I. Probably doesn't matter how it's included, as long as F&I is included in their pay plan, you'll automatically get a little bit of buy-in right there. The second part is building around the processes and stressing the importance of those processes. Here at Steele Chev, we have a 2-minute drill, and then we review our F&I numbers with the sales team each month. So the 2-minute drill is, we're reviewing on every deal what they've talked about. If they're consistently not talking about anything, it's going to become fairly obvious that there's a lack in that process, and it's something we can talk about right away. We do the 2-minute drill in the sales manager's office when we turn over the deal. So the sales manager, the F&I manager, and the salesperson are all present. And I believe that has a lot of benefits to number one, figuring out who is bottom of the process, where there are some shortcomings, and you can catch stuff fairly quickly. As a result, we have a very, very strong F&I average at our store here. And I think that's part of that process is the reason for that, and then also the buy-in. And then the third part is, again, just talking about it. So like I say, at our sales meetings, we share our back-end numbers on a salesperson's basis. So what is that salesperson's back-end average per deal? And, we call it planting the seeds, right? What's your average for planting the seed? Because all we really need to do, you don't need to sell the product. You just need to plant the seed so the F&I managers can really step in, be the experts that they are, and really cultivate that sale. I think all F&I protections are important. Some are more important for different people, and that's really up to the F&I manager to identify those things, not the salesperson. But as long as the salesperson's planted the seed and they've done their job, they'll reap the rewards just like the F&I manager will.
Yeah, no, I do see the value in highlighting, the salespeople that are doing an exceptional job. And then, focusing on the salespeople that need a little bit of assistance, maybe need that buy-in, or, sometimes it's just a better understanding of the product and how it actually helps the customer. So they say, oh, okay, so I get it. Like, that's why they would need that. Now I understand. And then they actually believe in that product, for an added value for the customer. Because I found that sometimes that's really what the problem was, is that some people said, like, why do they need this? Right. And you kind of get that why am I doing this if it's only helping you? Well, it's not. It's great for customer retention. It's a product that the customer would probably need, especially on, any given circumstance. And then that sometimes helps kind of change the tide with some salespeople that maybe are underperforming because of that lack of education, right?
Exactly. I mean, I take a product like Gap, for example, and Gap is a product that I sold as an F&I manager at a very, very high penetration rate. And then I have a lot of salespeople say, well, they didn't have any negative equity. They don't need Gap. I was like, Gap, not just for negative equity. That's not what Gap does. Gap has a lot of different purposes, and even on a finance deal where there's no negative equity, they could still be in a situation in a number of years where they have negative equity that they want to avoid.
100%.
And so there's just explaining the benefits. Sometimes it's explaining the products, and it's really just explaining more of the process so that you can have people who understand what's happening a little more clearly. And I think automatically, as people are going to buy in, everyone that I've worked with has always wanted to do what's best for the customers. And sometimes people mistake protecting their customers with preventing them from buying products in F&I as if they don't see the value there. I know I've spoken with other people, other F&I managers who are working against a sales team, selling against them, saying, listen, before you go in there, you don't need undercoating, you don't need warranty. And I think those people are doing their customers a very, very big disservice.
Yeah, are they ever?
Because you don't know those people's situations. You don't know what their budget's like. You don't know what their ownership experience is going to be. And if as a salesperson, you're telling your customers you don't need undercoating, you don't need warranty, and in 5-6 years time, that customer has a rusted out car that needs repairs, and they could have been protected, you've harmed your customer. You've not done them a good thing. And I think some people mistake that they think that the people buy more in F&I, I'm not going to be able to sell them a car more quickly. But that should not be your approach. If you really want to do well in this industry and you really want to grow and grow your database, you got to do what's best for the customer. And that's not always telling them not to buy something or making decisions for them. It's about equipping them with the most information so they can make the best decision for their own situation.
Yeah, 100%. Like, how many times, I bet you this has happened to you more than once. You sell a customer a vehicle, you add gap protection for them for whatever reason, like you say, right? Maybe they had negative equity, maybe they're a high mileage driver and the car's just going to depreciate that much quicker. And, a month later, 2 months later, the car's written off and they're coming in going, the car got written off, what do I do? And you kind of swoop in and you're smiling, right? Because you're like, watch this, like this is going to be you're glad you got this and let me show you how amazing this is. And the sales guys going, so I get another sale, right? They don't see how that can kind of translate. And, it's, I have worked with people that have had that approach, like you're saying, that are kind of skittish. They don't want that customer to buy it because they don't feel that they can sell them a car in 2 or 3 years because they've added product. But that is a total disservice because those people are now left vulnerable and exposed to risk that they just don't need to be taking, right?
Exactly. I mean, I talk automotive a lot. I consume a lot of automotive content, and every time I hear about these people who are, working against their customers and working against F&I, I really wonder what their real motivations are because it just doesn't make any sense to me. I can't think of a way how someone can rationalize that and think they're doing their customers a favor. So.
All right, so that's a great point. As you say, you guys would drill down with numbers and educate the sales team, and that leads into a great question. So, as an F&I manager, I'm sure you were always receiving training, whether it be from maybe a warranty provider or just in-house training with your management team to improve your averages and your overall success. Have you taken any of those practices that you had in that role to your sales manager's role? And if so, which ones were they and how have they helped?
Yeah, so I think as an F&I manager, I was hungry for training. I came in real green as an F&I manager. I'd only been a salesperson for about 8 months, but I had a lot of really strong resources around me. So as I said, my mom was an F&I manager, so we talked car industry all the time, and which was a really good resource to help me grow really quickly. I learned from her process, and then of course I worked with Catherine Miri, who was at Sal at the time. She came in and she gave me a ton of amazing training and helped kind of change my process. I was working as a step seller, not having a ton of success my first few months as an F&I manager, and she came in and she hounded me on basically that I need to switch to a menu. Having a menu system was gonna make me a lot more successful. And once I bought into that process and I adapted it and made it my own, my results doubled, and then shortly thereafter, I actually tripled from what I was doing as a step seller. And being able to open yourself up to learn new processes and try new things, I think is really imperative to being successful in the car industry. If you get too comfortable doing one thing, you really limit your potential for growth, no matter what level you're at.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the things that is a really great example of that is actually here at Steele Chev. We work with First Canadian, and they've developed a new system called FC Drive, which is basically a smart menu system. It's a really incredible tool. But we had some really high performing F&I managers who didn't want to change their process. They didn't want to try something new. And I was really pushing for this to adapt it, try on it. It's gonna help us in the future. And our actually top performing manager, Sherry Boutour, she really took on she opened herself up. She started adapting it, and she took her already among the top averages in the Steele Auto Group and has grown it even more using this new process. So trying new things, leaving yourself open to try new things, you will grow, you will get better. So I guess that's one thing that as an F&I manager, I've brought over to sales managers, this willingness to open yourself up, to grow, to try new things, and to always be improving. So that kind of started in F&I, and I've carried it through. So.
Yeah, I mean, the way the industry is going right now, you have to be open to trying new things because let's face it, the way that consumers are asking to shop and interact is really changing rapidly, I would say. And
even with some of the restrictions that the COVID has placed around us, we have to adapt.
Yeah.
I mean, I take our store for here an example. We went through a lockdown. We had changing restrictions almost on a daily basis. We were constantly adapting and changing to what was moving around us. And a big credit to my sales team here. They adapted and they changed and they delivered another successful month. But it was not without challenges. And if you were not willing to try new things or to adapt your process, we would not have been as successful as we were.
Yeah, even that comfort level of talking to a customer online through email or text or Zoom or things like this, that is a completely new thing in the automotive industry in the sense that, we don't solely rely on that. But here in Ontario, we've been by appointment only for, my gosh, I can't even know how long. And dealerships are understanding that, sometimes customers just like, you know what, I don't want to go out right now, but they want to have that conversation. Maybe they're in that research stage or they're in the buying cycle. And a dealership or a salesperson or sales manager who doesn't want to adapt to that, it's really missing the boat because sales are doing great. We haven't really slowed down a ton, but the people picking it up are the guys that are willing and girls that are willing to interact the way the customers want to. We can't have that control of a customer anymore, which we never had in the first place, let's face it. But you really have to do business the way a customer wants to do business, and now has highlighted that so much more than any time in the past.
Exactly. Operating on a customer's terms via the way that customers feel comfortable is the way of the future. We can't, this whole, come into the dealership for a price or when can you come in before I tell you anything.
Yeah.
That's gone. If you're not willing to give your information to a customer, without being prompted, you got to adapt your processes here because, change is coming. The customer's more informed. They're doing more research. They're visiting less dealerships. And if you can't make things easy for them, they're going to go to someone who will.
I 100% agree. And I really think that what's happening right now is going to be good for the automotive industry. I think it's really kind of opening people's eyes and they're seeing things from a different light. And consumers are actually seeing things from a different light and how they can do things. They're getting much more comfortable with the idea of purchasing things online. And that's going to be a very interesting shift, I think, in the industry. Maybe not immediately, but it's coming and people are getting more comfortable with it. And I'm very curious to see how this looks. And, in a year from now, I'd love to reconnect with you and see how far has this progressed and, what are you and your team doing to adapt to it? Because I know, like you say, you're not scared of change. So I'd love to know what processes and practices you've changed just in a year span from now to see what has changed and how you're doing it. I think that'd be really something cool to watch out for.
Well, I'm excited to see what happens in the next year already. I mean, some of the processes and stuff that we were doing a year ago that seem antiquated now. I mean, the idea of just setting up, appointments for customers to just come in and do things that we now do via video or Zoom or FaceTime, just incorporating things to make things easier for the customer. I think has really ramped up. I know, we're looking at making things across the board as easy, as seamless, and as frictionless, to use a word that's a nice word right now, as possible. So
yeah, you know what? Let's elaborate. Why not? We've got some time. So looking to the future, this is a scary question to ask, but I'm going to ask it to you because that we both come from this background. Do you see the role of an F&I manager actually being phased out or evolved? And if so, how do you think that's going to work?
it's an interesting question, and I flip flop on this all the time. I've seen dealerships now that are being successful with salespeople doing the whole front to back process, and having an F&I director managing some of the more tricky aspects of credit. I've seen that process work. I've seen the idea that F&I can be replaced with some, click here and do this credit application online and we'll get it done for you. I really believe in the human element of F&I. If you really want to be successful in that pocket of the business, I don't think it can just be phased out and have the same level of success. That being said, for people who are looking to cut costs or streamline experiences, it is an area that could be cut out. I just don't think you're going to get the same return in that area of the business. And for me, I think it's a huge area of business. I think it's a really huge customer service area. It brings people back to the dealership. It brings people into your service department. I just think it's a huge part of the business that for me, and this is probably my most traditionalist, least ready to change part of me.
Yeah.
I still think people need to be in that F&I chair, in that F&I office. I think it's an important part of the process. But I do see I do see people willing to change and to adapt and try new things. Some of the online buying could necessitate that the FYI office just becomes redundant. That could happen. I don't know how quickly it'll happen. I guess it really depends on how quick this switch over to online buying and really does become.
Yeah.
I do see a world where you need salespeople to explain vehicles and do test drives and sell the vehicle itself. But then everything else is done online, and you don't talk to a person. You don't get numbers from a sales manager. You pay MSRP. You customize your protections. Here's your term. Here's your payment. It's delivered to your driveway. I can see that coming for sure. There are a number of places that's happened already. How quickly the whole industry buys into that process, I don't know. I think it'll be there's big changes coming to the automotive industry. That's for sure. I don't know what they'll be or how quick they're coming, but there's definitely changes coming. You can see the writing on the wall for sure already. So if that's a good thing or a bad thing, I still don't know. Wearing my F&I hat, I think it's terrible. I see a lot of benefits to the F&I office and to that experience in the F&I office. I was proud to call myself an F&I manager, and I'm in my automotive industry. I think it's the thing I did the best at. I was comfortable in it. I enjoyed it. I loved dealing with customers. But as a sales manager and as someone who sees the financial impact of that office, I can see ways and different spins on that office becoming a much different looking animal in 1, 5, 10 years. So
Yeah, I do agree with you, and it's coming from the F&I side as well. I do have a sense of compassion that I do think that role is going to change quite drastically over the next few years to what I'm not sure yet, just like yourself. But I kind of predict maybe a hybrid model where the desking manager will desk a deal basically with or without protection options built into that payment. And, that sales team or product advisor, whatever that role will be too, because that will change, I'm sure. But I think what you're going to see is a lot more protection options being offered and sold during the buying process rather than after the customer is committed to buying a vehicle and then they go to another area to purchase protection for it. I think we're gonna see it kind of evolve into one entire process. So you buy your car, your warranty, your tire and rim protection, and that gets settled. And then perhaps for the financing, you would sit with a loan officer or whatever they would be called at that point, where that person can give you options on, life insurance, credit insurance, those kind of packages that are more detailed to age specific, very kind of drilled down numbers would probably happen in that portion. That's the way I see that kind of transitioning. But it could go, like you say, it could go completely the other way where it's, build price, add your protection options online and, come to the store to facilitate the sale. Who knows? But it's definitely evolving and there's no getting around that, I would say.
The part of the things I think will be really difficult to replace is some of that non-prime, that near prime. Those are things that I still think are really going to need a human element for a long time. And if you're going to have a human element doing those types of deals, why not have a human element doing all types of deals? So that's one of the things that I have a hard time wrapping my mind around on how to replace that part of the business. And then just like you said, actually, like at Mitsubishi, we had a process where we were very intentional about desking our deals with protections built in. It was not uncommon to have a deal go in F&I office with warranty pre-sold, chemical protections pre-sold. Depending on the customer expiration and the customer's, the rapport they built up, we sometimes had deals with life insurance. Sometimes we had deals with $4,000 or $5,000 back ends that were done before the F&I manager touched it. Yeah. So that kind of goes to the fact, maybe this is a sales manager process where we're combining the sales manager and the F&I manager roles in terms of the selling part, and then you go to a loan officer who just gets you approved and signs you up. Yeah. There's so many different ways that this could look, and I don't know how it's going to change, but the F&I office is ripe for evolution and growth. So
Yeah.
There's a lot of uncomfortable conversations, I think, happening at some places right now, and I
Yep.
think more of those will be had. But again, to F&I managers out there, if you're not willing to adapt and change your processes, eventually you won't have a choice. So
Yeah, yeah, no, and it is. I mean, let's face it, the way that the automotive world runs, especially in Canada, is a little behind the times. And I think as we evolve and this kind of morphs into a 21st century buying experience, not a selling experience, because that's what we're in right now, where we're selling to the customer, and everything else that you buy is a buying experience. You go on Amazon, you buy, and they lead you through a buying process. Whereas, the sales in automotive seems to kind of still try to pull you into a sales process, which just it's flawed when you look at how everything else is purchased. These rules are going to have to be updated and have to work with these new processes and how people are buying, because I think gone are the days that a person wants to buy a vehicle and then transition to another F&I office and sit down there for 45 minutes. That's that's not what that's not how people are buying things online. So that can't be how people are buying vehicles in stores. I just don't think it's going to do well that way. And it's going to take one or two manufacturers to pull the pin and allow this to be done on the manufacturer's website somehow, while still incorporating their franchise stores. And I think that's going to be the turn of the tide.
yeah, I mean, I know right now, I'm really curious to see how Tesla adapts their system and tries to grow their system.
Hmm.
I know right now GM is currently in the process of rolling out Shop Click Drive. I believe Hyundai has a fairly complex system that they're in the process of overhauling. So from the OEM standpoint, I mean, they're the ones that really can really drive some very fast change,
Hmm.
and it's really interesting to see what they do in the next little while. On a dealership basis, again, like it all starts at the top and works its way down. You can't, if you're a general manager or a dealer principal and you expect your F&I office to do this themselves, it has to start with you. It has to start with your management team,
Yes.
and they have to be empowered to be comfortable enough to try new things.
Yes.
If you tell them, listen, I need every dollar of that office out of every customer every time, you're a lot less likely to get some opportunity for growth, because with growth comes failure, comes missteps, comes learning opportunities, and if you're not willing to ride the tide with your people, then you're never going to have that type of growth. You have to be willing to take the ups and the downs as you grow and learn. I know when we switched to this F&I drive or FC drive process, which is now basically been adapted by almost our entire F&I team. There was ups and downs. Like there was times where deals that we were trying to do with FC Drive, we probably could have made more money on doing it the old way. But overall, and in the end, we're much better for this change.
Hmm.
So that patience, that comfort level that you got to empower your people to have, if you want growth in that office, there's a cost that comes with it, and there's some patience that you need to have.
Yeah.
So if you want to grow and you want to adapt and you need to change, you got to empower your people and let them feel safe that they can try new things. Because if they don't feel safe and they don't have that empowerment to try new things, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's funny you say adapting to change, because the automotive world doesn't adapt to change. We live on a 30-day cycle, and if it doesn't work in those first 30 days, go back to the old way, man. We can't look forward to lose
Yeah.
money. And
Flush it
but
now.
what's that?
Flush it now.
Exactly.
How many times? I mean, God, as a new F&I manager, my very first deal,
Yeah.
um, it blew up in my face spectacularly. Spectacular failure. My very, very first deal. Um, and the sales guys were ready to just get rid of me then. It was
Oh
my
my
very
gosh.
first deal, and they were done with me because I blew up one deal. Now,
Yeah.
to my credit, I'll take half the blame in that deal, but it was a spectacular failure. Day one, deal one, and thank God that the management staff at least believed in me a little bit to give me a few more days,
Yeah.
because I turned it around. But yeah, the patience and that willingness to accept failure
Yeah.
as you try new things. Yeah, failure is not a bad thing always. So
Yeah, I was speaking to Maria, who she used to be a marketing manager at a dealership, and now she's moved to a vendor side where they're, doing Google paid searches and marketing for dealers and things like that. And I said, that must be such an interesting transition. And I'm sure now her role, she was saying like she can now go to a dealer and say, listen, I've been here, I know where you're at, and I know that you want results 30 days. Like, come on, we got to go, we got to go. She goes, marketing, much like what we're talking about, implementing change, is not a 30-day cycle. It's a 90-day cycle, a 6-month cycle. You have to test it and tweak it and, make those changes to see if there's incremental growth. And that you're going to drop what doesn't work, but you've got to give it a shot. You've got to give it that chance, because if you're trying to do this in 30 days, my gosh, you can't learn FC Drive in 30 days and be comfortable. I know that was the system that I was using, and I'm as techie as they come, but I can tell you I screwed up, I bet you 3 or 4 deals just because I couldn't load the software properly, or it was taking a little bit too long. So you have to allow that time to try to grow and make it all make sense, because we've got to get out of this rat race of 30 days. It's not healthy for the dealership for anything other than an immediate cookie. And that's not a growth plan. That's just keeping up. That's sprinting, right?
Exactly. Actually, it's funny you talk about that 30-day cycle. Dealerships as a whole have that 30-day focus. And that, I think a lot of times, all us salespeople get that 30-day focus as well. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that Steele Chev has done exceptionally well, even before I got here, was they actually built their own video platform, and they really, really grew this video platform that they can speak with customers. They can engage over this platform. It's called DealBox. And now it's gotten to a point where sometimes they take the DealBox for granted. It's this incredible tool that as a salesperson can make you so much money. But a lot of people don't, especially new people who come in that weren't here when it was being developed, don't necessarily see the value right off the bat, because they don't sometimes get that return of investment within that 30-day window. Mm-hmm. But this video tool will sometimes generate value for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And it's not everything you do doesn't have to generate results in 30 days. A lot of those times, if you really want to start growing your own book of business and stop relying on leads as a salesperson or as people coming in off the sales floor, whenever that starts happening again, is looking long-term, is doing things that aren't going to generate value for 30, 60, 90 days, even a year out. Mm-hmm. One of the things I know that people who are successful do really well is just maintaining contact with people just every so often, just staying top of mind. One of the guys here, he does a really great job. He sends a video on people's birthdays.
Oh, cool.
It's once a year. He just sends a birthday video, and he has people who are going to buy from him for years now because of a 2-minute video he sent. Mm-hmm. And that's that idea that he can send a video on their birthday. They may not look at that video for another 15 days. Yeah. But they're going to look at the video. They're going to, hey, that's really nice. Thanks a lot. And then when they go to buy a car in 6 months' time, they're going to think of him. Or, their friends talk about buying a car later that day. My sales guy just sent me a birthday video. I haven't talked to this guy in 2 years. You're generating referrals. You're generating business you don't even know you're doing. Yeah. It's this just a passive growth that I think is a lot of people don't necessarily see the value in right away. But if you want to grow your career quickly and grow your book of business, it's the little things you do are going to have a massive impact.
Yeah, I never had the experience, but I wish I did in my career, to work at a store that wasn't really focused on that end of the month, whereas they were more towards long-term goals. Because I think that is so much more progressive and so much more healthy and for a salesperson and for the dealership in total. Because you're right, some of these strategies that dealerships want to employ do not have results 30 days, 60 days, even like you say, 90 days in. That's a long-term play. But then when, the 20th of the month hits, it's like, all of that's out the window. What are we doing? Where's our sales? Why aren't we at target yet? And then it's kind of like, oh boy. And then, it all starts all over again the first of the month. Okay, guys, let's get back to video. Let's get back to this. and then the 20th month hits and here we go again, right?
Yeah. They
Yeah.
actually, one thing I think is really interesting too, and this again speaks to that long term commitment, that looking outside that 30 days, is how often are salespeople still follow, or how, not how often, but how long are salespeople following up with their customers.
Hmm.
Uh, I know I've seen different data that talks about customer buying cycle being anywhere from 50 to 90 days. Sometimes I think the average is like 73 days is the most recent one I heard.
Hmm.
And I don't know a lot of salespeople, even the stores that are really outperforming, that are really following up for 70, 80, 90 days in any meaningful sort of way.
Yeah.
Um, but to the salespeople out there who are sending an email, on day 30, hey, are you still in the market? That has no value.
Hmm.
That you're not doing yourself or your customers any favors with that sort of follow up.
Yeah.
I would recommend that you do something to bring value to your customer in every interaction. If
Yeah.
you can bring value to your customer in every interaction, you're going to be seen as an expert. You're going to be seen as someone who is helping them, and you're going to have people who are engaging with you and not other people. So if you're sending an email to a customer, just do anything that adds some sort of value.
Well, I mean, take for example, just the current market. You got manufacturers who can't deliver a ton of cars right now. You've got a truck shortage. You've got a used car market that is like comparable to the housing market right now. It's unbelievable. You know, like you say, for buying cycles for customers, a customer may come in looking for a used vehicle and they don't find what they want at your store. And then maybe go and, go to 2 or 3 other stores based off of what they've seen online and what they want to find. Maybe all those stores, every car is sold. Who knows? But that customer on a used car market could stay in market for, like you say, 45 days, 95 days. It doesn't matter until they find the car that they want. Now, why wouldn't a salesperson who gets that customer that comes in and they don't sell them a used vehicle, why wouldn't they send them weekly? Like, hey, here's what's new. You were looking for a Mazda 3. I just got 4 of them in a Honda Civic and an Elantra. And you can just fire off this video message. How long does it take you to put together something like that? If you did that, consistently, just put people into that cycle where you touch and base every 10 days and just, a little bit of research on your used car lot and send off a 2-minute video. But it could be 60 days later. The customer goes, oh, you know what? You have that car in? Perfect. I'm going to come down and take a look. You can put that car on hold because it just arrived. There's so many short-sighted things that we do that really need to be kind of expanded and focused. And that's where I think management, though, is really key to that, because we all sit down with our sales team, right? You all have, I'm sure you have one-on-ones, if not daily, weekly. And that has to be, and that has to be taught. That has to be, kind of really implemented as a game plan. Here's our short-term goals this week. Here's our long-term goals this month. Here's our, how's this working out strategy-wise over the last 3 months. And I think the more that we can kind of look at things like that and focus on the short and the long term with our sales team, the better off we'll be. I don't know. Do you have those kind of meetings with your team where you have the short-term goals and the long-term goals? Have you adapted to that yet?
I mean, one of the things I think that they're not as direct on those sort of things. A lot of stuff we talk about is small stuff.
Mm-hmm.
On a specific deal, a specific
Yeah.
video. Real small thing, real fine tuning things that they can use in other things. And then when we have sales meetings, we talk bigger picture stuff. So we talk, what's the goal for the month for the store? Where are we at? What are some
Mm-hmm.
things? Here's CSI. Here's our F&I averages. Here's what we're doing well. And try and keep things big picture in sales meetings. And then one-on-one, focus on the tiny stuff there. That stuff that you can get real value. Anything you can have direct feedback, real direct feedback. So I know we have a newer sales guy here right now, and a lot of times after I've done a deal with him, we're coming back over and reviewing some of the stuff he said, some of the responses he's getting. What worked well, what didn't work well.
Mm-hmm.
What's your plan moving forward, right? And just trying to. A lot of times, I think being an effective sales manager is not telling someone what to do. It's helping them. Empower them to decide what to do.
Yeah.
I think that's a better way. I've had managers who believe that they, go do this, say these words, and I don't want to hear anything else. Don't let them leave. Um,
Don't let them leave is my favorite.
yeah, and, uh, and I understand their motivation, but there's
Mhm.
a better way.
Yeah.
Talk with your people. What do you think you need to say? What do you know about your customers?
Hmm.
What have you done so far? What are they expecting of you? What do they think you're doing right now?
Hmm.
Um, Having a conversation with your staff on a regular level, on a very small level, on the details. Like I said, the small stuff is where you make the biggest changes. You can't come in, put a new process in place, expect everyone to get it day one, and then everything's fixed. That's just not a real um, a real result. That's not how things are going to happen. You can change a process and you can work towards results. Um, but you're only going to get those results when you reinforce that process, you speak on the process, you break down the process, what's working well, what's not,
Hmm.
and you fine tune it. And the fine tuning comes in the details.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
if you
a
work with
process
details,
isn't built on one step. It's built on, step A through Z, and you can review, tinker, tweak, and quantify each step individually. And those are those small changes that you're talking about. But you can't go and look at the whole process and go, change it. How will you ever know if it's working or not working? Change the small elements in between them.
I think being a salesman at one store and coming to your other store, you want to bring everything that worked well to the other store and bring it over here.
Hmm.
And sometimes, I mean, even in my own case, I did that before. I knew it was working well here. You got to give yourself time to, like I said earlier, you got to give yourself time to adapt. So much of my own personal growth has become from just looking at the mistakes that I made, looking back on some failures. I wrote some things on LinkedIn, these confessions of a sales manager, and that was just me looking back at all the things I did wrong,
Hmm.
and kind of saying, what did I learn from the mistakes that I made, not knowing they were mistakes at the time. And I think that's one of the places that I got some real growth for myself was being honest and being introspective, trying to figure out how I can do what I do better. And I think one of the ways you can do that is determining what you've done poorly.
Hmm.
So if you've done something poorly or you've made mistakes, look at those things, own up to them, and grow. I know every manufacturer that I've worked with has online learning, and every manufacturer has these steps to a sale, and they're all the same. Every other manufacturer has the same steps to the sale. They're very, very general. There's about, depending on who it is 5 to 8 steps to a sale. Um, and the one that I see salespeople give the least credence to is that introduction.
Hmm.
Man, you need to spend the most amount of time on that one there.
Yep.
And the ones that people spend the most amount of time on right now, that negotiations phase, that should be the least.
Yeah.
And if you spend more time doing your introduction and your meet and greet, whatever you want to call it, and you'll spend less time doing your negotiations and you'll make more money. And it'll be an easier, happier, more fulfilling, more enjoyable process for you and your customers.
Yeah.
Um, and again, if you don't take the time to look back on your deal as a whole as a salesperson and look at the whole process and really have that introspection and be honest with yourself, you're not going to be able to learn and grow and to figure out where you're going wrong. And
Hmm.
even managers that want nothing more than to help you can only help you so much. I can only look at what you're doing from where I'm at. I have a number of data that tells me one thing, but without you looking at what you're doing, without you being honest about your own successes and failures, and be honest about those things. I don't think you need to be shy about your failures.
Sure. Absolutely.
Uh, I see so many people who think they need to be perfect, or think that they can't make mistakes. That those are bad things. Making a mistake is not a bad thing. When I was young, I was learning how to skate. My mom was a figure skater early on, and she gave me this advice that she had heard from her coach as a figure skater, was that she wasn't falling enough. And she's like, "Well, what do you
Okay.
mean I'm not falling enough? That means I'm doing well." He's like, "No, if you're not falling enough, you're not pushing yourself."
Right.
He says, you got to fall down, because if you're not pushing yourself, you're not going to fall down. You're going to do what you know you can do. You're going to stay in your comfort level, and you're not going to fall.
Yeah.
You're supposed to fall. Like,
Yeah.
that's not a bad thing. So I've taken that into different places, and this willingness to fail, I think, has really, really empowered me.
Yeah. And I'm so happy to hear that from someone at a management level, because I feel that at management level, they're very, very adverse to taking risks and failing. And proposing a maybe not radical change, but, a big change in your store, because they're very worried that if they failed, the spotlight's on them. That was a failure. You cost us deals, but obviously the intentions were good. And that to me, like, you have to be willing to try, to fail, to pick it up and go, what didn't work? My intentions were good. So how do I change it? And that's how we're going to change, like you say, right? And that, I love that you're at a management level thinking that way, because that's going to obviously trickle down to your staff, because it shows your vulnerability. And a sales team needs to see that, to know that it's okay to fail. It's okay to try and fail and then pick it back up and start again, right?
One of the things that and I think a lot of teams too is this idea of failure can be embarrassing. And I'll switch to video. The video is such a great tool, and I mean, the videos you've done in the past are just incredible.
Oh, thank you.
I can think of a number of videos of yours that I really, really enjoyed. I remember there's one where it was different versions of, like, you cloned yourself in a video to sit in, I think it was a 7-seater. I think it was even a Pathfinder.
Yeah.
That you're doing a video in. And I was like, this is so excellent. And trying to empower your staff to take these same risks, to grow with this really, really great way to communicate with your customers, to build value and to build your own brand. Such few people are willing to take those kind of risks and really put themselves out there. But the ones that do, or ones that will, man, you're going to see just endless rewards. I mean, look at Jeff Hunter, who was another strategy mob guy. His videos are next level. And they bring him a ton of value. He's a guy that I love engaging with. I love talking with him, and seeing the stuff that he puts out. Taylor Champagne, that's another one he puts out. I always say Taylor Champagne. I actually can't even pronounce his last name correctly anymore. Or Tyler Champagne. Sorry, not Taylor. Tyler. He has his videos are more for dealers, but I know they're generating value, and they're engaging probably his staff as a sales manager. The stuff you do when you put yourself out there, it pays off. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to experiment, and definitely don't be afraid of failure.
Yeah, you know what? If you take someone like myself or Jeff or any of these guys who shoot video, because it's so easy to see our mistakes, and I that's one of the things that I like being able to show. Go back and look at our first sets of videos, right? You will laugh your ass off in compared to what we're doing now. And that is literally our failures on video for the whole world to see, but it's the evolution, right? I mean, I remember the first videos I were doing were god awful. They were horrible, and they actually got worse before they got better. But the way that I was actually able to evolve was not through my own learning, but I actually had feedback coming from people who just had a general interest in helping the greater good. And LinkedIn is a fantastic place for that. I think that's what the whole community is built around. But I would share my videos, as good or bad as they were, and I get the feedback. And, one person who was monumental in that was Jim DeLuca. Rest in peace, man. He was such a good guy. And I remember he called me up out of the blue and just said, hey, man, I've been watching some of your stuff, and gave me some pointers. And he was actually the person who got me to now go and be in the video, facing myself, and then go back to the car and then come back to me, because I didn't want to be in it. And that really changed exactly what I do. And it helped me build my career. And that was from, a stranger on LinkedIn just reaching out and trying to give me some value. So you can see those stages of failures and little successes and monumental or little changes. And then it builds and builds. And it's easy because we can see that, but that's no different. That process and stages are no different than doing anything else, on the sales floor or in life in general. We know that, right? So yeah, no, I man, you got to be able to fail and live with the embarrassment, as brief as it is, because it is certainly brief, and then just dust yourself off and get back up and do your thing, man.
And that's not to say that you can't empower failure in a certain way either way. To fail up, that's the way.
Yes.
Not trying, just giving up. Those are not the right kinds of failures. it is better to, Wayne Gretzky always says, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That's the kind of failure to not try is the biggest failure. That's an unacceptable failure. But to try and do something new and fall on your face, that's the best thing you can do for yourself. You will grow and you will learn. Exactly. Like, I mean, just as you said, that you have evidence of your growth and the things you've learned. And that's a good thing too. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what? I think this is a great place to wrap this up, because this whole podcast has been talking about change, right? Whether it's changing processes for F&I, whether it's F&I trying new things, and then we've circled around to, even salespeople and managers just really trying with failure, getting back up, and just keep on going. I love this episode. This is really motivating for me, even just trying this new experience. I'm brand new to podcasting. I'm going to completely fail at a bunch of these. I'm going to laugh it off, pick it up, and keep on moving, keep getting better. And yourself as a sales manager, we're going to make these mistakes together, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to, just keep building, just keep that positive energy, that positive outlook, the right attitude. And that's what's going to make us, I think, successful in our careers. And, it all translates down to life. But Brandon, man, it has been fantastic talking to you. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I'm going to give you a couple minutes here just to shout out. And, if you want to let everybody know your social, where they can reach you, anything, it's all your space. Go for it, buddy. You got a couple minutes.
Definitely. The main thing is LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn. I really enjoy LinkedIn. It's a fantastic profile or platform. Brandon Smith at Steele Chev, you'll be able to find me that way pretty quickly. Not really active anywhere else on LinkedIn, but check out the Steele Auto Group, check out Steele Chev. We have more and more content on there as well. And if there's anything I can do to help any of you guys out there watching, please feel free to reach out to me as well. The more we can all help each other, the better everyone off will be. And like I say, the only thing constant is change. So don't be afraid to change.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, Brandon, thank you so much, my friend. It's been great having you on the show. Hope you had a fantastic time. And for everybody in the Strategy Mob crew, hope you enjoyed this episode. All my automotive professionals, if there's any topics you want to hear us talk about, please hit me up. If you want to be a guest on the show, you can do that as well. You can find me on LinkedIn or Instagram or YouTube or anything, you name it. Just put in Skinny Video. I'm probably going to pop up there pretty quick. All right, guys, that is it for our episode today. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe. Happy selling. Everybody, take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy Mob podcast. Don't want to miss new content? Visit us at strategymob.com to view our huge library of content and to sign up to be a mobster and stay in the know. And remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.